What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of What's the Word, your home for all things sports. I'm your host, Sam Casillas, and I know it's been a minute since I've uploaded. Just been taking some time to wrap up the semester, but we are finally all done. I am settled back up at home, so I'm excited to be producing some more content on a more consistent basis, but I just want to say I appreciate all you guys just for your constant support and just for being patient with me. It really does mean a lot to me. But without further ado, let's talk some ball. The league is buzzing right now. We got some playoffs, we got the league awards, we got some coaches being moved around. So, without further ado, and let's dive into this episode, let's talk some ball. Starting with the MVP race. So, as you guys know, the MVP race has wrapped up. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen, Nikola Jokic has won his third NBA MVP award. So, that's going to lay down the foundation for what we're going to talk about today. But let's dive into this NBA MVP race. Starting with, this was a really, really tight race. I think it really could have gone either way. Each of the three candidates were exceptional in their own ways. We had Luka Doncic on the Dallas Mavericks, SGA on the Thunder, and then, of course, Nikola Jokic on the Denver Nuggets. There was a lot of buzz about this race before the season even started because, as you know, the NBA took a new route to kind of how they were going to determine the MVP and the winners of these awards. They implemented a new requirement that you had to play 65 games to be eligible for any of the league awards, really all NBA, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP. So really, this was kind of something big. This was some big news because that started, ringing some bells, getting some talks about Joel Embiid, about, his availability, his ability to stay healthy and, not be injured. That kind of, was a big talk about his MVP award winning last season before Jokic was like, hey, this guy maybe didn't play as many games. So that put a big spotlight on Embiid, and, that format change kind of, made it a point that, hey, you had to be available. That's a big part of winning MVP and winning these awards is that you had to be available. So that put a lot of emphasis on, this award. So that way we got some new candidates this year, like Luka Doncic. We got SGA. Jason Tatum was in the mix a little bit. So because of this game requirement, it kind of allowed us to, get some new candidates, some new faces in the MVP mix. And I think, had Joel Embiid have been healthy, had he been able to play the 65 games, no doubt he would have been in this MVP conversation. And just look at him when he came back. When he came back from injury, he was dominant, and it's like he never left. He picked up right where he left off. So Joel Embiid most definitely would have been in the talks. But with this new game requirement of games played, that really put things in a perspective of just how important it is to be available. So I really was a big fan of the rule. So this really could have gone either way with these three guys. And every one of these guys dazzled in their own way. It was Jokic. He was just amazing all season. Doncic, he had that kind of that crazy push towards the end of the season. Really, he was playing well all season, but it really was that last 20 game span of the season where he pushed the Mavericks to, I believe, a 16-4 record to close that season off. He was playing out of his mind. And then SGA, that's Mr. Consistent right there. He's been responsible for leading the youngest team ever to the number 1 seed. So all three of these guys kind of just brought so much to the table. And it's awesome just to see them get their flowers and get their recognition. And just to give these boys more of their flowers. Luke is a guy who led the league in points per game, 33 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. So he was nearly averaging a triple-double, and he shot a career-best 38% from deep. And, he got the Mavs, like I mentioned, that end-of-the-season playoff push. That was really important. Like I mentioned, the last 20 games of the season, they went 16-4, and, they were able to secure the 6th seed. And, they were in a hunt. There was talks, that Western Conference race was really tight. And there was talks if, the Mavs were even going to be a play-in team. But, they got hot right at the right time. And, large part of that was due to Luka's success. So, he was shooting, 33, 9, and 9, like I said, so almost a triple-double. And, he was just an absolute gamer. So, hats off to him, just 25 years old. I'm looking forward to, seeing him. He is going to get an MVP soon, one of these days, but just not quite yet. Like I mentioned, it could have just gone either way. All three of these guys have such a strong case to win MVP, and I think they are going to get one soon. But, I'm going to dive into just why it's Jokic's time still. But, Luka, hats off to him, exceptional season, and, he's still balling in the playoffs, so hopefully the Mavericks can, get the job done against the Thunder, 2 MVP candidates playing against each other, and, the cameras are out, it's surely living up to the hype, so hopefully Dallas can get the job done, hopefully Shea can get the job done, but that's going to lead me into my next point was Shea Gilgeous-Alexander robbed of MVP? And, that's a valid question, every year you see the awards get posted, and you're always going to get the question. You're always going to get those people in the comments like, oh, this guy was robbed, this guy was robbed. And I mean, sometimes, they are valid. And I think this one, a very strong argument can be made for the fact that SGA could have won MVP. And I think, the same could be said for Luka. But I think more can be said, for SGA and just the value he brings to this OKC team. He brought the Thunder from the 10 seed last year to the number 1 seed. Now, a large part of that has just been because of SGA's success and his evolution. This is a guy who is constantly evolving in the game. He was just named an All-Star for the first time in his career last year, and now, he's All-NBA, and he's one of the best players in the league. He's averaging 36 and 5, while shooting an eye-popping 53.5% from the field and 35.3% from deep. This is a guy who can do it all. This guy's explosiveness in the open floor and just his ability to absolutely just take over, in the clutch moments, it's just unreal. And, although he didn't bring home the hardware for OKC, in this MVP conversation, I think OKC is really going to be in great hands with him driving the boat. And, they have a lot of young guys and a lot of young talent over there. So, like I said for Luka, I think, Shea will get 1 or 2 in his career. But, it's just the Joker's time right now. But shout out to SGA. Those guys are still balling in the playoffs. He got the Thunder from, the 10 seed to the 1 seed. So that's just a huge accomplishment. And I think that's one of the biggest points of the argument that can be made for him possibly being robbed of the MVP is, that's tremendous success. And, he has had some help. His team, he has a lot of great role players. Chet Holmgren, J. Will, J. Dub, they're doing their thing, Josh Giddey. But you take Shea away from that team and it's a whole different picture. So, I think, Luka, yes, he did have some strong points for MVP. But, I think SGA did have some stronger ones. And I think it was really close, I think SGA, there is an argument that can be made that he got robbed just for the sake of, what he did for the Thunder, the 10 to the 1 seed. That's a lot in itself. But this guy, he's such a young player. He's definitely going to get some more seasoning to him. And if he just continues to evolve like he did last season to this season, there's no telling he's going to, add a few trophies to his trophy case at the crib. So I'm really excited to just see him evolve, just to see that entire Thunder squad evolve. They're so young, like I mentioned. So they're going to be... Oklahoma City's in good hands. I'm excited for them. But, let's talk about the Joker. The Joker picking up his 3rd MVP award, making him just the 9th player in NBA history to accomplish that feat of winning the MVP 3 times. So, an incredible feat for the Joker, just his dominance, in the league. It's not going unnoticed. This is already one of the best bigs to ever play the game. And, in a race that was as close as this one, I think Nikola Jokic was the best pick. And I think, he had my vote when I saw that the finalists came out, when it was, those 3. I really thought, I thought hard, and I thought that Jokic, was going to come home with the hardware. And, let's talk about what this guy does for the game of basketball. He is such a tremendous player. He averaged 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists. Let me just say that again. 26, 12, and 9 as a big in today's NBA is just outstanding. And he's all those were in the top 10 in the league in each stat category. And he had 25 triple-doubles on the year. He shot 58% from the field and 35% from beyond the arc. So, he did it all. He can dish it out. He can shoot the ball. He's just a tremendous player. Jokic, he led the NBA. And let me get into this stat. This is something, that doesn't really get looked at a whole lot. But I really want to bring it up. Jokic, he led the NBA with a plus-minus of 682. So let me just give you some clarification. So a plus-minus it's a calculation of your team's net points while a player is on the court. So, for example, if a player was on the court the whole game and their team won 50-48, that player would have a plus-minus of 2. So Jokic's plus-minus was 682 on the season. That's the best in the league. So, plain and simple, Jokic, he's on the floor. The team is better with him. He makes everybody better, and the numbers don't lie. And, his ability to just make his teammates around him so much better, and that's really just what makes the Nuggets so dangerous and such a complete team. And it's this is going to be crazy to say, but if you want to beat the Nuggets, it seems like you just want to let Jokic have 40 points and no assists. I've seen it firsthand, just his ability to control the game and, the way he has a feel for the court. He's always just, he's one step ahead of everybody. So, it seems like Jokic is more dangerous the more he gets his teammates involved. So that's kind of like what I said. You want to just let him have 40, and no assists because, when he gets those teammates involved, that's when Denver is at their best. That's when Jokic is at his best because, it forces, the floor to open up and it forces the defense to not be able to send as many doubles as him. So, I mean, it's unnatural just how much he's able to do and, his IQ of the game. And, I mean, when it's all said and done, he's going to go down as one of the best big men to ever play the game. So hats off to him. I mean, I'm excited to see how he's going to try and rally the Denver squad against a really good Minnesota team. But just hats off to Jokic for winning that third MVP. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. That guy, he's as a Laker fan, he's caused some sleepless nights. I'm not going to lie. Just seeing how good of a ball player he is, you can't help but, put your head down and laugh. So got to give Jokic his credit. I mean, he's an exceptional ball player. And, hats off to him for winning MVP. And, I'm excited to see him, try to rally his squad back against, the T-Wolves. But that's going to wrap up the MVP talk now. One more award that I want to dive into is the NBA Rookie of the Year, Mr. Victor Wembanyama, the first unanimous Rookie of the Year recipient since the 2015-2016 season. So that was Karl Anthony Towns, if you needed a refresher. But, I mean, just let that sink in. This man won unanimous Rookie of the Year. And, I mean, he led all the rookies in points with 24, rebounds with 10, and get this, blocks. This guy was averaging 3.6 blocks a game as a rookie. And, I mean, he joins Manute Bol as just the first rookie to lead the NBA in blocks in a rookie season since Manute Bol in 1985. So just let that marinate a little bit. He joins Manute Bol as the only other rookie in NBA history to lead the league in blocks per game since 1985. Like, that should just show you how much of a generational player this guy is. And yes, it helps that he's 7'4" doing this, but I mean, this is a guy who 7'4", but he plays like a guard. He handles the ball well. He shows spin moves. He's out there doing sham gods. He's moving like a guard out there. He's what every big man wishes they can be. And, he's out there just doing his thing, and he makes it look so easy. And, I mean, he can also defend on the perimeter better than most fives in the league. I mean, it's crazy just what he can do, and his range as a defender is limitless. I mean, I've seen it. People think that they can get an easy switch on him on the pick and roll, but, I mean, he's eager to step up and, switch. He's not afraid of, guarding a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5. He can guard anywhere on the court, and that's what makes him so special. I mean, he's already cementing his legacy as, one of the best bigs ever. And I think when it's all said and done, he can be, just because of how different he plays the game. And, I mean, we really haven't seen anything like this. A guy who can, shoot the ball well, move. We have some great big men in the league, like I talked about. Jokic is one of them. But, I mean, this guy is moving like a guard, and that's just something that Jokic doesn't really do. And that's what makes him so different. But, I mean, Wembanyama, he can also, like I mentioned, he can defend on the perimeter better than most of the fives. And then, let me just say this. When Wemby was on the floor, when he played, opponents' effective field percentage was 1.5 points lower than when he wasn't on the floor. And when he was the nearest defender, let me just say this, shooters' field goal percentage was 4.5 points worse. So the ability of Wemby to just use his length, use his size to alter shots, and like I mentioned, 3.6 blocks, he's not just altering these shots, he's rejecting them, he's sending them back. So this guy is a defensive presence who's going to make his presence known all day, all night. And I mean, he didn't really average that many minutes, just about 30 minutes a game he was averaging. So the fact that he was able to do this, he was, flirting with some quad dubs too, with some blocks. So I mean, this guy is unlike anything this game has ever seen before. And I mean, he's going to be a star. And it's just a shame, that the Spurs didn't really run their offense through him. And I think, one of the reasons why that was because I think he was better than the Spurs anticipated him to be. There was a lot of hype around him, and there was no doubt he was good enough to go number one. But, I mean, this was a guy who had, so much attention on him, and I think the Spurs just kind of thought that, hey, maybe he won't be as good as everyone expects him to be. So I think that's kind of why the Spurs didn't really run their offense as much through him. I mean, if you watch the Spurs game, he wasn't getting nearly as many touches as he should have gotten. And, that was a little strange to see with Popovich as the coach. Usually, he's a great coach. He's a guy who likes to cater to his strengths, but it didn't look like that with Wemby. And I think that's because he was just so much further along than they anticipated. So I'm just excited to see, what the Spurs do, what the front office what the front office does in this offseason. I hope they go back to the drawing board, and I hope they get some good picks and some good supporting cast members to put around Wemby now that they know that, hey, he's way more far along than we thought he was. So that's really a good sign. Hopefully, Wemby can take them from a 22-win team and a 14 seed to, maybe a play-in team. It's not going to be, that big right away. You're not going to, go from, a 14 seed to a 5 seed or, a 1 seed right away just in one season. But, understanding that you can just take it slow and, slowly get better every year. And that's what it's all about. So if you can just, keep experimenting and put a good supporting cast around Wemby, I think, the Spurs are going to be in great shape. And I'm excited to just, see how they continue to grow. And I'm excited to just see how Wemby continues to play the game. I saw how humble he was receiving that award. And it looks like he loves, the city of San Antonio. He loves where he's at. So he's ready to work and give it his all. So I'm excited just to see him get better and, continue to grow, because I think, this guy is a once-in-a-lifetime talent. And, we might not ever see another player like him. And just the stuff he's shown in his rookie season, gosh, you guys better be ready. Get the popcorn ready for Wemby. So I'm just excited to see Wemby and the Spurs, try to figure it out and get better as a squad. But that's going to lead me into my next topic of, my new possible favorites to win the NBA championship. And that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And one thing I really want to talk about is just, can Anthony Edwards be the man and, bring a title to the Twin Cities? And Anthony Edwards is a guy who's slowly becoming the face of the league. But let me just talk about the T-Wolves as a squad. And I've been able to learn a lot more about the T-Wolves, being in the Twin Cities, going to school there. And let me just say, this is a squad, and this is a team who's hungry. They got their fans behind them, but this is a team who's the number 1 ranked defensive team in the league. And, they're putting that on full display. They're showing that that's for a reason, that's not a mistake. What they're doing in the playoffs is unreal. And they're doing such a great job of defending the Nuggets and just taking away space. They're meeting Murray at half court. One of the things I've really liked is the way Nickeil Alexander-Walker has just been picking up Murray at half court, and he is heckling him. They're sending doubles on him as soon as he crosses half court. He is frustrated out there, Murray is. So, they're completely taking away space. They're double teaming hard on Jokic, which, something that the Lakers tried to do, but, it wasn't really working for them. But the Timberwolves are just using their size, and that's just something that the Lakers didn't have. They have Rudy Gobert. They have Karl Anthony Towns, who can out there defend. They have Naz Reid, who has that length. So they're switching it out. They have that size to defend those perimeter big bodies that the Nuggets have, like Aaron Gordon and MPJ. So they are doing a tremendous job of just using their size to neutralize those guys. And the fact that, the Timberwolves have that ability of, Karl Anthony Towns, who is a big guy who can, he can defend the 4, he can defend the 5, and he can space the floor on offense. He can shoot threes and knock him down. So his ability to just space the floor, and mind you, he's coming off of a meniscus surgery. This guy, he was injured. There was some uncertainty that if he was going to be able to perform at the level he was before injury. But, this guy is leaving no doubt. He's scoring the ball at will, and, he's recovered nicely. So just the fact that the Wolves have that defensive presence of Gobert and of Karl Anthony Towns, and they are just absolutely using that to their advantage. And it just seems like the Nuggets haven't had an answer to what the T-Wolves have been able to throw at them. And like I mentioned, they're just showing why they're rated the best defense in the league. And it's not a mistake. I got to witness it firsthand. I've been watching, how they've been handling the Nuggets. I'm rooting for you, Wolves, just because I'm still hurting on that Lakers loss. But, just seeing them handle the Nuggets, it's been awesome. But this is a Denver team who's not used to being punched in the mouth like this. And, I think the Nuggets, they're definitely going to punch back. They were able to steal one on the road in Minnesota, so 2-1 the series is now. But, this team isn't used to, being down. They were getting punched around a little bit against the Lakers, but, they were able to hit right back. And I think against a team as good as the Timberwolves, if you go down early, they're too good to keep hitting back. You can't claw your way back against them. So, they're going to punch back, and I think they're going to be able to take some games. But, you can never count the Nuggets out. And, I've seen that firsthand, like I mentioned, against the Lakers. All those comebacks, it'll really drive you crazy. But, you cannot count the Denver Nuggets out, but I think, this series is Minnesota's to win. So I'm just excited to see how they, come out and ball. I'm excited to see Anthony Edwards just continue to play well and take over the game and just continue to grow into that face of the league that, we're all excited to see him become. because he's an exceptional athlete, and I'm just excited for the T-Wolves to neutralize, hopefully, the Nuggets. But I'm excited to see, what Jokic can do to get his guys back on track. And, make it a series. Like I said, they're down 2-1, not in a bad spot. They're not in a terrible spot. So I think, they're going to throw some punches back, and they're not just going to lay down. But I think it's going to be a series. But I do see the Timberwolves winning the series, and I do think, that the winner of the West is going to be through this series. So I'm excited to see, get the popcorn ready for this one, because, these are two big dogs going at it. But that's going to bring me into my last point, and, I'm going to talk a little bit about my squad. And Lakers fans, rejoice. Some good news despite this heartbreaking end to the season. But, guys, Darvin Ham is gone. Lakers fans, rejoice. Say that again. Darvin Ham is gone. And, let me just say, okay, let me get one thing straight. Guys, I know you can only blame a coach so much. At the end of the day, the guys got to get out there. They got to make shots. They got to defend, and they got to do things well. But as a coach, you got to help them out. Darvin Ham was a guy. The teams would be going on 10-2 runs, 15-2 runs. We saw it against Denver. They went on a 20-5 run, and Darvin Ham is just sitting there, not calling a timeout, letting these guys get hot, and he's really not helping the Lakers out, and he's not putting guys in. His rotations weren't the best. It took him so long in the season to wake up and finally start Rui Hachimura. And, once the Lakers did that, they started winning games. So, he wasn't, I don't think, like I mentioned, it's always, it looks bad to just bash the coach. It's not always his fault. But, just some of the stuff he was doing was really questionable. And I know it's tough to coach in LA. Just the standard is so high. And I feel like it can get to coaches a lot. But I feel like Darvin Ham, he had the talent, and I feel like he had the squad. But you got to help your players out. So I feel like that was just unacceptable. You're playing, a team like the Nuggets in the playoffs, and you're trying to cling on to a lead, and all of a sudden Denver gets hot, and you're just you're sitting there, and he just kind of didn't look like he knew what was going on. And if you're driving the ship, if you don't know what's going on, how do you expect your guys to know what's going on? So I'm curious to see who the Lakers are going to bring in, because, they kind of dismissed the whole squad. So it's going to be a whole new squad in LA. But I think, one thing the Lakers do need to address this offseason is really signing a big man, so that can move Anthony Davis out of the 5 into the 4, so he can just play his natural position now. That's what the Lakers did in 2020 when they won the ring in the bubble. That's when, they had Dwight Howard, they had JaVale McGee. They were able to have those guys play the 5, which allowed Anthony Davis to just, not have to be the primary defender in the post. It allowed him to, have more help in the post, and that which led to more blocks on the help defense. So, letting him play at the 4 where he's most natural, I think the Lakers got to get back to that and, let AD just do his thing. We know he's a dog. We know he can get it done on defense. But, if you really want to just maximize Anthony Davis's ability to play basketball, you got to just let him play his natural position at the 4. And, it worked for the Lakers. It's known to work for the Lakers. AD's only gotten better. And, if they can just, stick to the script like they did in 2020, I think they'll be fine. But, that's really one of the biggest needs for the Lakers. I think you got to go out and you got to get a quality big man, so that can move Anthony Davis back up to the 4. There's still a lot of uncertainties. I saw that DAngelo Russell became an unrestricted free agent, so there's some uncertainties, for him. And, I'm still not completely sure where I stand on that. I love D'Lo as a player. I think he's, our glue guy for the offense. But, just seeing his inconsistency again in the playoffs, it's hard to watch, sometimes. And, I have a lot of faith in D'Lo. But, right now I'm kind of leaning towards, hopefully the Lakers can keep him one more year, and just, I think this last year can really be the final year of observation for D'Lo, the make or break year for him. Because if, we know he's a great regular season player, but if we get to those playoffs and, he's having just those flashes of being great, and then, he'll disappear in the next game, we can't have that. So, I'd be willing to bring D'Lo back, but hopefully, that's still a ways away. But, I think if you're the Lakers, really just addressing that need of, getting a big man, I think that's going to really help you out a lot. But, I mean, there's still so much up in the air, so much time for that. I'm really excited just to see, I mean, how the Lakers bounce back. I mean, because I cannot take another year of this. And to be honest, I don't know how much LeBron has left in the tank. Just being real with you, keeping it 100, I do not know how much LeBron has left in the tank. I know it's one of his goals to play with Bronny, like I mentioned in the last episode. But, I mean, I think Bronny's still kind of just testing the water just to see where he would fall on the draft board. But, I mean, I don't think Bronny's going to be in the league this year. So I'm not sure how much LeBron has left in the tank, and I think if you're the Lakers, you really want to maximize that and, get him one more ring just to, send him off the right way, send him off on top. But I think if you're the Lakers, you really got to address that, and you got to go back to the drawing board and just really rethink, what you want to do to be the best team in the league, because right now, you've shown that you can kind of just, go blow for blow with anybody except the Denver Nuggets. That's been the Lakers' kryptonite. So if they can just get something to counter them, and it's no easy task. But I mean, the Lakers do gotta really go back to the drawing board, and I'm excited to just see what they do in the offseason to address those needs. But yeah, we'll see that. But we'll keep you posted on this NBA season. That's gonna do it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, what's the word? You're home for all things sports. I'm Sam Casillas. Make sure to drop a like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Share this on your social media pages, share this to a friend. But as always, feel free to just let me know in the comments if there's a topic you guys want me to cover, because I do this for you guys. So if you guys are passionate about something, you want to see me talk about something in an episode, just feel free to drop it in the comments. But as always, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Sam Casillas, and this is What's the Word. We'll see you next time.